Hi, and welcome to a special Christmas edition of Dessert Devotion. You know, one of our favorite family Christmas traditions is making our very own gingerbread houses. In fact, many years we host a gingerbread house decorating party at our home for our neighbors and family and friends. This year we won't be having that special gathering of 20 or 30 people, lots of kids running around, and I'm going to miss that. But I'm going to bring the party to you because today I'm going to show you how to make your very own homemade gingerbread house. And that's not all. We have a very special guest. I am pastor at St. Mary's Road United Methodist Church. And as our new pastor, it's been great to get to meet the different families and members that make up that wonderful church family. Well, today, one of our very own church members is a college student, Khaliah. And so she is joining me today to make the gingerbread houses and to do our devotional together. So it's been really great to get to know her and to do this devotion with her. I can't wait to share this time with you. The most important part of gingerbread houses, the icing. We have 16 ounces of powdered sugar, 3 tablespoons of meringue powder. Meringue powder you'll find in the cake decorating section of most big box stores, or you can order it through your grocery stores. And then you'll need 4 tablespoons or so of room temperature water. You're going to mix that until it looks something like icing, something like glue. If we check out Khaliah's kitchen, as you can see, it kind of has this really sticky consistency to it. Now we'll start on the house. As you can see, we're just using graham crackers. We're not going to bake gingerbread. That's an easy shortcut. Now I'm going to take a knife and start making the parts of my gingerbread house. You want to take your time and do gentle cuts here. But the good news is if you crack your graham crackers, you can just start over. So you have a whole box of them to work with. Some of the techniques use a serrated knife. Also, as we see in Khaliah's kitchen, if you use a paper towel or a tea towel underneath the crackers, sometimes that helps it. So you can successfully have a nice, even graham cracker. So then I'm going to make the walls and the roof, if you will, and that's just by breaking my graham cracker sheets in half. So now we're ready to assemble. I've placed my icing in a piping bag. You can also use a freezer bag and tie the end, and we'll get started on putting it together. As you can see, these are like the sides of the house, and then the other parts will be like the walls and the roof. I'm going to start by always gluing not only the sides but the bottom of the gingerbread house, and then I like to stick them to foil or a paper plate, something disposable, so it's easy to clean. So I'm doing the bottom and the inside edge, and then I'm going to set it up with the first wall. The key here is patience. A lot of people want to just use regular icing. You want to take the time and use the 3-ingredient royal icing we're using today so that it really sets up. But you also want to hold each section about 15 seconds before you move on to the next section. A lot of people want to put the whole house together and hope it stays together. But just be patient and let each section firm up, and then we're ready for the next section. So now I'm going to start on the next side of the gingerbread house. Again, putting some icing on the bottom of it, and then I'm going to put some on that inside edge again, and then I'm going to add this to the other side of the gingerbread house. And you have to be patient. I'm holding each section for about 15 seconds until I can kind of feel that glue, if you will, setting up. I'm going for that last wall, if you will, doing the bottom again and the sides, and then putting it together. Once you get the hang of it, you can make your gingerbread house a little bit bigger, or you can take several of these and put them together like in a Santa village. This icing is really great. Once you put this together, after about 20 or 30 minutes, this icing firms up completely. It's not going anywhere. So now we're ready for the roof. Again, doing all the sides. I'm going to nestle this on top here. and then just kind of hold it in place until I feel that icing sticking together. And now we're ready for the last part. So after I hold this together, I like to kind of go back over it with the icing and just seal up the creases, and then I'll leave it to set. You'll see I'm also going to use an ice cream cone once I get this secured to the plate. For landscaping, of course, for your gingerbread house. My kids love to decorate it like a Christmas tree. So while these are firming up for about 20 or 30 minutes, I look forward to my Zoom call as Khaliah and I discuss our devotional for today. So hi, Khaliah. I know that you're one of our college students at St. Mary's Road, and we've talked a couple of times. I know you participated in the worship services with prayer and scripture and that kind of thing, but I know there's a lot more to you. So tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. My name is Khaliah. Like you said, I go to the University of West Georgia. I'm majoring in theater. I majored in theater at my high school as well. It was the Fine Arts School, Raymond McCullers School of the Arts.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy theater. I want to be a theater teacher. I hope to own my own studios for children that are less fortunate and not able to afford the classes and different things to be able to get the fundamentals of theater. I want to be able to provide a space where they can learn what they can really do with their skills, because there's not just acting. There's the people in the background that have to do the technical aspects. There's the people that have to direct. There's the people that have to create the costumes, the makeup. So, and not only things within production, there's pre-production work to be done. So I want to create a space where they can learn those skills and learn how to take those out into the real world and find jobs for themselves, and not have to settle for just something that they don't enjoy. They can actually be in theater making money and creating a living for themselves, doing something they enjoy. So.
Yeah, that's so true. It makes a total difference when you can do something that you're passionate about, and have a job that you love, that is a part of your gifts and your calling. It makes a huge difference. Yeah. I know that from my own personal experience. Yeah. Hey, on a side note, have you seen Debbie Allen's Nutcracker production on Netflix?
I've seen like the previews and stuff like stuff showing advertising, but I haven't went and watched it.
You have to check that out. I think that'd be really inspiring, because that's what she did. Her ballet studio has a lot of scholarships for kids that would normally not be able to do it. And so you not only get to see the production and behind the scenes of how they prepare for I think they call it like the hot chocolate nutcracker. But then you also get to see like how it influenced kids later on and what they went on to do after going through her school there. And I think it's in California. So definitely be sure to check that out while you're at home for the Christmas break.
Okay, I definitely will.
Well, I'm so glad that we had to kind of share this time and try out the gingerbread recipe and that kind of thing. I really like that. And I know that you're a creative person and I'm a creative person. So this is like right down our alley, and we can now make those for our families and friends and that kind of thing. But, of course, the one thing about making your own homemade gingerbread house is that it can be so precarious. And that's why it's so important to have the right ingredients, right? Because that's the heartbreaking part, is you start putting together the gingerbread house and decorating, and then it starts kind of caving in or leaning to one side if you don't quite have it together from the beginning. So when I was thinking about Christmas in general, can we talk about 2020? Sometimes we might feel like we live in a gingerbread house, right? Like sometimes things aren't quite right, worried about what might go wrong, what might fall apart, what's kind of leaning to the side, or worried that, something's going to fall off the side, or things are going to fall apart, or maybe we'll even come unglued in some kind of way. But I'm just curious for you, like from the college experience, going through ending that spring semester of school, and then kind of going into that the fall semester of college. What were some of those things that just kind of fell apart? Like, I can no longer do this, or I can no longer operate like this. Like, how has this year been?
Well, I love being around people. I enjoy talking. I enjoy all of those things. Like I just like being around people. In theater, it's collaboration. It's always around people. And so something that changed me during quarantine and going to this fall semester of college was my social level. Like, I would get around, like, we have to wear these masks and be around each other. And I get around people, like, because before college, I was at home quarantined with my family. And then I had to step back into being around people my age and talking to people and actually collaborating with work because we did a show at school. So it was kind of hard getting back into talking to people and actually wanting to be around people because the first couple weeks I was like, I just want to stay in my room. And then, COVID already, it was just like, I don't want to go out and do certain things because I don't want to get sick. I want to stay safe. And then even when there were like events where it was like, okay, well, we're social distancing, we have masks, I was still like, I don't feel like being around people. My roommate was getting aggravated with me because I just didn't have that social level like I couldn't be around people like I used to anymore. And I think that's just something that kind of changed for me. And now I'm getting used to it again. But I found myself being more of a person that I want to be alone more now than I used to. I used to want to just be around people all the time. But now I'm just more introverted.
Yeah. Well, that's something we've had to learn, right? Is to deal with more of ourselves and having time, not depending on other people to entertain us or to, celebrate or to do things or even to problem solve, to do school, to do work. It's definitely a whole new way of relating. Well, what are some of those times where things kind of threatened, like precarious, or you kind of felt like things were unsettled at school? Do you have moments like that this year? I know a lot of people had anxiety about that about the future and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it felt weird to be by myself, to like not have my family there with me. But in that time, it was like, this is something I'm learning that this is something that I have to, like a sacrifice, I guess, like not being around my family, being alone and having to, go through those times where I don't want to do it. But it's like a sacrifice for something greater that I want. So there was a lot of times like just being in my room doing homework or something like that during the semester. I was just like, oh my God, do I really want to be here all the time away from my family? But this is something that I have to do to have greater moments with my family in the future. You know what I mean? So it kind of took those uneasy moments away, thinking about what I would get out in the outcome. So.
I mean, that is a great perspective to have because, everything that we're going through right now, a lot of it is temporary. If we can just think that, just make the most of where we are now, make the most of learning new things about ourselves, learning to be, like you said, by yourself. I'm learning to be by myself too, right? Learning new ways of doing things, trying to take advantage of the time to stretch ourselves. And then also knowing that if we do the right thing now, then this too will pass, and there'll be a time where, we can be with our families and friends more of what we were kind of used to in a new normal. What year are you in college?
This is my freshman year.
This is your freshman year. Oh my gosh. So what a tremendous start to your college career, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have had a lot of maturity about it.
Thank you.
So I know it's a big adjustment going off to college and having all these changes. And I know, like in my mind, when I went off to college, I grew up watching Different World. And so I had this idea of like this whole social scene and everything in college. So when you got there and it was totally different this year, I know you talked a little bit about that disconnection, but how have you managed that? What in the midst of things kind of falling apart in terms of what you imagined when you went to school or what would happen? Talk about that versus like how you kind of dealt or managed that.
So it was already heartbreaking knowing that my year was not going to be normal because it already started with like a not normal graduation and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, we're going to go into this knowing that we don't know what's going to happen this year. And I kind of just like literally went with the flow. Like
Mhm.
I had like my classes switched days. We split up because they had to split the classes in half so that we have too many
Mhm.
people. So I only had like a class a day. And I just kind of just went with the flow of things, and I would ask questions. So I
Yeah.
just kind of went into it like, okay, let me know the normal, but I'm gonna adjust and I'm gonna do this. But how do we normally do this so that I can know, you know what I mean, what the procedures are, since I was coming into somewhere I hadn't
Mhm.
been before, even before COVID. So it's like I don't know the normal procedures. So it was pretty interesting going in. A lot of the teachers were very understanding of what we were coming into, so they were kind of just like, "Look, guys, we get it. Like, here you are. We're gonna help you. This semester is gonna be rough for us all." So it was all like, it was very collaborative, especially with my theater professors. They
Mhm.
were very understanding.
Mhm. That's good. Yeah. It's really neat to see how people have kind of pulled together to kind of get through it. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
had a first year of my own too, so I can relate to that, Khaliah, because this is my first year as senior pastor at St. Mary's Road. And I
Mm-hmm.
came into it during the pandemic, right? And so, so people ask me now, like, what was your first Sunday like? And it was like, it was me and there was a camera, and that's what the first Sunday looked like. I had no idea who the parishioners were. There's two people in the office, there's me and there's Jackie, my onlyest friend, and we're just kind of going through it together. Arisha, our music director, was new too. And so we
Yeah.
only knew pandemic world at the church. And so, like you said, we had to go to the flow. The church family, of course, would come by and we worked through, okay, how do we do this Sunday? How do we do the next Sunday? How is it looking? We just kind of made up, with worship. You were involved in virtual worship. We kind of created virtual worship as we went along.
Yeah.
And then in terms of getting to know people, like you said, you can't have those big groups and the pastor reception or getting to have the different, events, even when school started, the back to school bashes, and then as we went to the holidays, having those kind of gatherings. So
Yeah.
a lot of it has been one-on-one. I've been meeting people driveway by driveway, phone call by phone call, Zoom by Zoom. And like you say, just kind of going with the flow and saying, I know how we did it before, but every day is creating something new, to build those
Mm-hmm.
relationships. So, well, I wanted to share a scripture today, and this is from Isaiah 40, 1-8. And it says, comfort, oh, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that she has served her term, that her penalty is paid, and that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice cries out, in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, every mountain and hill made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all people shall see it together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry out. And I said, what shall I cry? All people are grass. Their constancy is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. There are some things that, even though there's been a lot of change, and sometimes we feel like we're living in a giant gingerbread house, right? Where things are kind of a little shaky sometimes. It is so good to know that there are some things that never change, like our faith and God's word and the promises that, as it says in Isaiah, when God will bring these things together for us, what is low will be brought high, the rough places will be made smooth. And that hope is what we find in Jesus Christ. We will see it all together. Do you have any advice for other young people like that are going through this Christmas season and in the midst of some things that you feel like are kind of falling apart or coming unglued? What is it that kind of holds it together?
For me, my family has held it together.
Mhm.
They've been consistent through the whole thing. Nothing has really changed for our relationship. I can still come to them if I need to. I can still talk to them.
Mhm.
Um, So my advice is to just go to your foundation, go to who will listen to you. There's someone that will listen to you. Um, and like I said, like, look, the greater purpose. You have a greater purpose. So anything that is holding you back in this pandemic, or anything that you feel is holding you back in this pandemic, um, just know that there's something on the outside that is going to come to you.
Absolutely. I think that's what the Advent season is all about, is getting back to the basics, getting back to our foundation, remembering that at the center of everything is Jesus Christ, remembering that even though we can't be in large groups or large crowds, all of us have people in our life that support our faith, that remind us of where we've come from, that remind us of that strong foundation, that encourage us, whether it's our family or close friends or a mentor. And this is not the time to try to go it alone, right? This is the time, for us to rely on one another and remember that foundation of Jesus.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Khaliah. It has been awesome sharing not only the fun gingerbread recipe with you, but this time of devotion. I've learned a lot from you today. So you are such a blessing, and so glad to have you and to be sharing Dessert Devotion with you today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Now Khaliah and I get to the fun part, decorating our gingerbread houses. You can use all kinds of candies or even cereal, pretzels, or dried fruit. What I have in my piping bag is not the royal icing we use to put the gingerbread house together. This is store-bought icing. I like cream cheese. You can use chocolate or strawberry, but add a tablespoon or two of the meringue powder, and it really helps those larger candies stick nicely to the gingerbread house. I can't wait to show you Khaliah's creation in her kitchen. Look at the festive Christmas tree and snow. The possibilities are endless. Well, thank you for joining me for this special Christmas edition of Dessert Devotion. Many things may have fallen apart or not turned out the way we wanted them to this year, but the Christmas season is a time to celebrate that through the promises of God and the hope in Jesus Christ, we know that all of these things we shall see come together. Merry Christmas.